So I quit my job 6 months into Flipkart and started my startup journey.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to a brand new episode of the Indianaut podcast, where we interview some of India's next best analytical and creative minds who are not only revolutionizing their own field, but at the same time transforming India's entrepreneurial ecosystem one step at a time.
Our guest for the day is the founder and CEO of OkCredit, a Y-Combinator backed organization. OkCredit is a digital lender app for small and medium-sized businesses that facilitates the recording of transactions. OkCredit is available in over 10 local languages and has over 10 million downloads. Our guest did his BTech from IIT Kanpur in Mechanical Engineering in 2014. We have with us Harsh Pokharna. Let us jump right into the conversation. Hi Harsh, I hope you're all settled in.
Yes, I am. Thank you for having me here.
Excellent. Let's get started. So, Harsh, in 2014, you graduated from IIT Kanpur, and then in 2017, 3 years later, you started OkCredit. Okay. So, from a young age itself, you, along with your co-founders, identified a large need to be addressed of solving the problem of credit recovery and reconciliation in MSMEs. So, how did you identify this need in the market, and what inspired you to start this business at such a young age?
Okay. So, see, like when I got graduated in 2014, I joined Flipkart as a graduate trainee. And actually, like my startup journey started in 2014 itself. Because when I joined Flipkart, I realized that the work I was getting was very basic. It was like, taking out some data from a database, then making it beautiful and sending it to pe- emails, right? And I always believed that I had more potential and I can do much more. Also, like Flipkart at that time was buzzing with energy. There was so much startup energy around, especially in 2014. So that also fascinated me. So I quit my job 6 months into Flipkart and started my startup journey. So actually from 2014 to 2017, we worked on multiple startup ideas, which did not take off, but yes, we learned a lot. And in 2017, we came across the problem statement of OkCredit. How we came across it was my co-founder Aditya. So one day he came from home. He came back home from the shop, like which was right opposite our apartment, and he was very frustrated. He was like, why do I have to wait 15 minutes in that line while that shopkeeper would take out all the previous bills and, calculate them, tally it from a register. And at the end, he would tell me an amount which I wouldn't even believe. I would always
Right.
argue कि इतना तो मैंने लिया ही नहीं, right? So, that was a problem he came with. At that time, we were anyway looking for problems because, our previous startup ideas had not worked. So we thought, yes, this is a genuine problem. Let's go talk to the shopkeeper. When we went to the shopkeeper, he told me that, it's a bigger problem for me because I am giving credit to hundreds of households. I have to run after everyone to collect my money back. I have to keep a box of bills so that whenever they come, I can show it to them. And I have to have all the arguments. So it's a bigger problem
Right.
for me. And that's when we realized, okay, yeah, it's a bigger problem for you. And maybe we can help you solve it. And we started building an app to do that.
Awesome. So, OkCredit raised seed money from Lightspeed in 2018. And in
Yeah.
2018, you raised a Series A round led by Tiger Global, followed by another Series B of approximately, I believe, 67 million, again led by Tiger Global, along with
Yes.
Lightspeed. But your first test was Y Combinator, right? So,
Yes.
tell us about your Y Combinator journey. How did you get accepted into it? And how did that
Yeah.
experience impact your business?
Yeah. So again, Y Combinator was for us. We got accepted fourth time. So like we had applied 4 or 5 times, but yeah, we got accepted the last time. The first 2 or 3 times we applied with different startup ideas. The one I spoke about, which did not work, and we didn't get selected. Once again, like the second last time we applied with OkCredit, but at that time we were very early. I think we just have had 20, 30 users, and even the way we presented our story was not that great. So we got projected that time also. The final time when we applied, we already had users. We could narrate our story, like in a much more coherent and, like manner. And that I think got us into Y Combinator. But I think like maybe that there's also a signal that these guys are so determined that they're applying every time, even after getting rejected. Maybe that also played a part. Uh,
Right, right. And how did Y Combinator impact your business?
I think Y Combinator, even before we got selected in Y Combinator, it impacted our business positively, because when our previous ideas were not working, we then came across the startup school videos and Paul Graham's essays. And reading those gave us a lot of clarity on what we were doing wrong, or how should we now approach our next idea. And as I told you about how we were observing problems, or how we went to talk to users, all of that is what we learned from the Y Combinator videos, right? They suggested that we observe problems in our own life, we talk to users, we solve it for one user before scaling it, do things in an unscalable manner. So even before going to Y Combinator, it had already affected us positively. And that is why we also wanted to go there, because we thought their learnings were very relevant to, how to build a startup. Once we went there again, I think the way it helps is, you get very good mentors there who can share their own experience and can guide you on, how to approach certain problem statements. Also, you get a good community of founders, which, you can go back to brainstorm ideas, or to even, hire, or any all of that stuff. That's there. I think for us, because our users were in India, so we could not get that advantage, which otherwise a B2B company who's probably selling in the US would get, because you in your batch you would get some 200, 300 other startups who probably could be your customers. So I think that is one good advantage for a B2B company, but for us, that was not a big advantage.
Understood, understood. So let's fast forward and talk about one of your core tenants, which is digital lending. So digital
Yeah,
lending is a very tricky business, right? Because while
yeah,
India is a credit hungry nation, a lot of businesses have struggled to make a mark and stay afloat in this field. So how
yes.
is OkCredit approaching MSME lending, and how is it differentiating itself from its competitors?
Yeah. So see, like the way we are approaching MSME lending is that we have built an acquisition tool, which is our Khata product, right? Through which we get merchant acquisitions almost for free, because like we do not spend on marketing. Goes mostly from word of mouth. So we get a free acquisition tool, and we onboard merchants. We observe them for a long time, 6 to 12 months, where we see what's their discipline like, what's their consistency like, like what's their cash flows, what are their repayment cycles like, and what kind of transactions are they doing, with whom are they doing, who are their customers, who are their suppliers. So we observe them for a long time, and basis that we generate an credit score for these merchants, right? And 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 so that data, and then we in our process do the CIBIL bureau checking, etc., which is the requirement from our NBFC partners. But what we see is that our data, when we use our data in combination with the bureau data, generally the approval rates increase while keeping the NPS constant. So if we were doing the same only with CIBIL bureau, right, like our approval rates say would be X, keeping the NPA at Y. Now we can do say a 1.5x approval while keeping the same NPA Y. So essentially, like there's additional value in the data that we are capturing, right? And that is what helps us do a better performance than other competitors who are just doing a plain bureau checking or a bank account statement checking. So that's our advantage.
Understood, understood. Got it. So I think, Harsh, if I were to summarize this answer of yours, I think it would be that you identified a core acquisition funnel,
Yes.
right, which is actually beneficial to your customers, to your clients, and you
Yes.
utilize that to basically build a pipeline for the lending business. And using that data,
Yes.
you harvested that data to utilize and identify the right customers to be able to give in the opportunity to lend to. So I think that's
Yes.
excellent,
Yes.
and I think that also reflects how the right way of doing digital lending in India, definitely.
Yes. Yes.
Nice. So I want to talk about a difficult topic right now. Okay. So the past year has been really difficult for the Indian entrepreneurial ecosystem.
Yes.
There have been layoffs in the industries which have, impacted employees, as well as a funding winter which has impacted a majority of Indian
Yes.
startups. So,
Yes.
you know, I'd love to, give you the space now as a startup founder to share how you feel about these topics and how OK Crediting is, managing things during this period.
Yeah. So again, like the last few years have been the years of cheap liquidity, easy money. And especially because of the federal banks or central banks, general overall global macro, the policies they have implemented. So there's no surprise that, a lot of additional or extra money has been pumped into the startup ecosystem, which has also led to higher valuations, a lot of startups being funded. These are, usual cycles, nothing unusual. But now, given how the macro is behaving, what the central bank's policies are, I think, it's now everyone's, have realized the need for rationalizing stuff, right? The valuations are being rationalized, the efficiencies are being rationalized. So of course, like we are mindful of that, and we are, like also taking measures to, like build more efficiencies into our business and make it more sustainable, have a higher runway moving towards profitability. So that is how even we are thinking, right? We are focused on achieving profitability and building efficiencies into our business. To do that, of course, certain times you have to take decisions like layoffs, right? Which are very difficult, but are needed to, for the longevity of the business, which is also, like the top priority. So yes, we laid off people in the past, but we also make sure that we do, basically outplacement services for everyone. And our HR team is, like the top priority is to do outplacements for everyone, which, and we did that. We laid off people last year, not this year. So we have been able to achieve that. We have placed almost all of our people whom we laid off. And until we placed them, we, supported them through salaries. Uh, and so, yeah, it's a tough time, but, like we did the best we could. And now going forward again, like our focus is on building more revenue channels. So we are building those teams, and certain projects that were not giving us revenue, but were more risky projects that we would have done in better times. We are at least shelving them for now, and, focusing more on revenue generating stuff.
Awesome, awesome. And I think it's really good to hear the, efforts that you're taking towards the employees who have been negatively impacted. And I think
Yes.
that's commendable and every company should be taking that kind of an approach. Ah,
Yes. Yes. I think it's very important, right? Even for the people you are retaining, right? For them, this is very important when they see that their leaders are doing everything they can to, like support the people being laid off. Because at least to the people who retain, it shows that how the company respects its employees, right? Because otherwise,
definitely.
I think the morale of even the people you are retaining becomes very difficult when they see that the company is treating the other group of people unfairly.
Definitely, definitely. I think that's the right approach. Absolutely. So, Harsh, let's talk about something a little bit more, upbeat in nature. So, there are a lot of excellent things that OK Credit has achieved, but at the same time, there would have been a few decisions or circumstances that retrospectively would have not been the best, right? As the CEO of OK Credit, if you could
Yeah.
go back in time and change one decision you made, what would that be?
Yeah. See, I think like I don't know about a decision, but I would probably change the way we did things when we were scaling during our Series A to Series B to next, right? Because at that time, again, given the entire exuberance in the market and all the FOMO and all the money available, I think I would have wanted to be more wise in the way we scaled, because our approach was again growth at all costs, where we just wanted to add more users irrespective of, like what it cost us in terms of money, in terms of the scale hiring that we had to do. So we added a lot of, so basically we grew, like our main focus was only growth in terms of users. And for that, we maybe have not used the money in the best possible manner, or not hired the most efficient or the lean team. We bloated in some departments. So I think like if I were to go back, I would probably use a more balanced approach in our growth, because that will be a better thing from a long-term thinking point of view. Because I will be adding users who are more relevant to my business at a reasonable cost. I will be adding team members, like who are with a more, lean approach rather than just throwing people at people at problems. So I think that's, my learning has been, and, that's how we are at least approaching going forward.
Awesome. Awesome. I think that's great, Harsh. And Harsh, I want to talk on a similar line, right? So I believe that you're a product first startup founder, right? You've aimed to adapt your and grow your business based on the market needs of the MSME sector, right? From an online bookkeeping app to becoming a digital lender. So I love for you to share highlights of of the company's journey, and also, any interesting tidbits or stories or, nuances that you have experienced on this road. Like, for example, where your product was used in a way you did not anticipate.
Okay. Okay. Yeah. No, I have a story at least. Okay, so let me share one. So when we started OkCredit, right, when we got our first user, and again, as I said, we used to do things in an unscalable manner. So we went to the first user. It took us, like some 1.5 months to onboard that user, because trust issues and, UX issues and all of those things. Once we onboarded that user, we knew that we wouldn't, spend another 1.5 months onboarding the next user, because that would not make sense. So we just asked this guy for a referral, and he gave us a referral to his brother, who was also running a shop. His brother, the trust instantly transferred from this shopkeeper to the brother, and the brother started using our app from the next 2-3 days onwards only. We didn't have to spend that much time. And then we asked for another referral, and then soon we reached around 50 users, who were using our application. At that time, we had not put our application in Play Store, right? So the way we used, we approached was, we went to the user, we explained them our product, and if they like, we shared the APK through ShareIt, right? And there was no login screen, no sign up screen. We would create a username, password for them then and there, and then give it, and then they can log in and start using. So yeah, this was happening. We had around 50 users, and soon I started receiving a lot of phone calls from morning to evening. And I used to ask these people, how did you get to know about OkCredit? And they said, ki, मेरे friend ने share किया ShareIt पे. Right? So we saw that people were loving the product so much that they were sharing it with their friends over ShareIt when it was not available on Play Store. And because the people did not have a sign up option, right, they
Right.
would call us on the number below कि भैया मेरा account भी बना दो, right? Because I also want to use. So this was
Right.
something that gave us a lot of confidence that, hey, we have built something that people are using and loving so much that they are sharing it even when not available on Play Store, just the APK.
Right.
So, but I think that was, something very surprising, that I'd never imagined that, people would be using the app in such a manner.
I think that also, I think I can't even imagine the state your tech team would have been in at that point, because suddenly the need to create a sign up form would have been prioritized to the core.
Yes, yes, yes. And it was no tech team. It was just me and Aditya, right? Like we didn't have a team. It was just us who were doing stuff. So we're three co-founders, Gaurav, Aditya, and me. Aditya and I used to code. Gaurav used to do the UX and, like other stuff. Uh,
Right.
mm. So
So
it
yeah,
was
so
just,
I
yeah,
think
like,
the pressure on you and your co-founder only would have maximized
yeah,
to create
like
a
for
sign
us,
up form.
because we were not able to do any other work, because when these people call you, right, they want to speak for you for at least 20 minutes. They'll ask, "Ab भैया कौन से गांव से हो? But why are you doing this? What will happen to my data? What if my data disappears?" Because once they get hold of you, they'll talk to you for a long time. So we
Right, right.
that it's better to now put a sign up form so that people can sign up, put it on Play Store, and avoid confusion.
Definitely,
Yeah.
definitely. And just to expand on this, you spoke about how, because you were interacting with people on phone calls personally, right? I assume you and your co-founders. So you were actually, like you mentioned yourself, you were instilling trust in everyone to use the application, right? But when it comes to, going from those first 50 customers to say the first 1,000 customers or say the first 5,000 customers, instilling that trust in such a format would not have been scalable. So what are your lessons, providing the right trust flags through the experience itself for customers to onboard themselves without having to, require a conversation with you?
Yeah. Yeah. See, I think one was referrals. I think as you scale, especially when it's a financial product, because when people see that someone they trust has referred this product to them, they're more likely to trust that product and use it. So referrals was important. Second was social proof. So which again, referrals also social proof, but like social proof in a way where when someone onboarded to the app, we showed them that, hey, 500 people around you are using the app, or say these 15 other people in your contact book are also using the app, or like the way we even did our growth strategy where we went to communities, and so basically we tried to build a lot of social proof around it, that how other people around you are also using the app, and how you can trust that this app is like all good. So I think that was the more important thing. And as we grew more and more people started to know that yes, okay, credit's there. We have seen ads on YouTube. Yeah, I've seen people around me using it. So that builds that social proof, I think, which is the key.
Definitely, definitely. So, Harsh, let's look towards the future a bit. Can you share any exciting upcoming projects or initiatives that OkCredit is working on?
See, right now we are, as I said, we are completely focused on lending, and that is what we are doing. So while it is already live, but like we are more excited about it from a regulatory point of view, because especially lately RBI has been, like sharing a lot of circulars and guidelines on how digital lending can work. So, right now I think that's the major challenge on, like how to, because we are not a registered NBFC ourselves, right? We are a fintech. So I think like we probably be going in that direction where we would get registered by the RBI so that we can do a digital lending more freely. So, but yes, like overall, honestly, we're just focused on lending, and our plan is to scale it up to more users as we go forward. So that's what I'm more excited about.
Awesome, awesome. I think we should touch base on the regulatory aspect because in the past couple of years, RBI has issued various notifications, which would, in the long run, be good for the industry as well as for the end customer. But as a startup team, which as you yourself mentioned, which is trying to be lean, right? How do these regulations impact your roadmap or your growth plans, basically?
Yeah, yeah. So I think, see, it has both a short-term and long-term impact. Short-term impact for us last year has been that there was a lot of confusion even among NBFCs that, how they can partner with fintechs. For banks, everyone, there was a lot of confusion. There were new guidelines coming up, and everyone was first focused on making their existing partnerships compliant and then moving on to new partnerships. So short-term, there was bump. It was a bumpy road basically, where like new partnerships got delayed, so like we wasted some time there. Also, like some of the NBFCs were not clear how they can partner with fintech, so they were taking it slow and not doing those partnerships. But again, I think the long term impact would be better, because like RBI is trying to give more clarity, and once people have that clarity, and once the framework is defined, right, then I think it it would grow even more than what. So short term, there's some bumpy ride because there's confusion. People are forming their opinions. But once these things settle down and there's more clarity, certainty, I think it will be better for everyone in the ecosystem. So,
Definitely, definitely, Harsh. And Harsh, I have one last question for you. Okay, as a startup founder, as a former member of the Y Combinator cohort, what advice do you have for aspiring entrepreneurs, or as we like to call them, Indianauts?
okay. Okay. Like, again, I'm not, okay. I think like one thing I have learned, and possibly I can share with other entrepreneurs, is that it's a long game. Like when I started my startup journey, I always had this feeling that acha 2-3 साल में तो startup बन जाएगा, and like I never imagined that it's a very long journey, right? It takes at least 7 to 10 years to be able to build something meaningful, scale it, and there are so many challenges along the way which you wouldn't even realize, right? Like like basically things hit you from everywhere when you wouldn't even expect them. Regulatory stuff, competition stuff, funding winter, investors, like hiring. And it's so challenging. When I honestly, like when I started my startup journey, I had the image that it's all going to be very rosy. How difficult would it be? It's 2-3 साल में startup बनाएंगे, those kind of stories. But now when I am here, I realize how challenging it is, and it takes a lot of time to do it. And many times, even after putting in a lot of effort, people are not able to do it. Just only 1% of the startups succeed while 99 fail. So it's a tough journey. So having that in your mind when you start, I think is good, because at least you do not have wrong expectations when you get into the journey. If you have right expectations, you can have the right state of mind and go in with the right mindset. So I think that's important.
Definitely, definitely. Rightly put, Harsh. I think all the glory that comes with being a startup founder, I think there are 99 issues and problems before that glory comes, and one must, navigate that journey the right way. Yeah, definitely. Awesome, awesome. Thank you so much, Harsh, for joining us today. We wish you and OkCredit the absolute best for the future. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining us for this episode. The Indianaut podcast is available on YouTube, Apple Music, Spotify, and Google Podcasts. Be sure to follow us on Instagram and Facebook to receive all updates on the upcoming episodes. We'll see you in the next one.